Middle Podcast, the podcast dedicated to the music, movies, and culture of Generation X.
What is up, slackers? And welcome to another episode of the Stuck in the Middle podcast. And I am your perpetually sick host, Jason Eck. As you can probably hear, my voice is not as it normally is. Well, I guess I could almost say that this is more common than not, but I definitely have a little bit more of a drop off at certain tones. So it seemed like everyone had turned a corner. There was a funny video I had seen on Instagram this week about a guy. He's from the good old Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And he said, he's like, what is it? Like, it is just perpetually sick. So I'm not sure if it's happening everywhere across the United States. I'd imagine this time of year it's pretty common, but man, it has just been like, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm like ready. Like last weekend, I was like, I'm getting up on Saturday morning and I'm going to get on that treadmill and I'm going to start. And I woke up feeling like absolute death all over again, which sucks. My son just got home from a basketball game and he was coughing. My daughter's coughing. And then I just heard a little while ago, my wife starts coughing. It's just, yeah, these respiratory illnesses now just seem to be so pervasive. And maybe we're all hyper aware of it because of COVID and all of that, but it's just brutal. Back on an inhaler. Mind you, I am still slowly killing myself with cigarettes, although my cigarette consumption is, for the most part, really, really much lower than it was. And I mentioned a number of times that I had this albatross hanging around my neck. And it's a work-related one. So I'm never really going to get too much into the details of some of those things. But at long last, after a very long journey, that albatross is officially no longer around my neck. And it was one of those things that could have gone a lot of different ways. And in certain ways, I feel very rejuvenated, I guess would be the term. If I wasn't feeling so shitty, I'd probably be a lot more animated, because it really was something that was just a challenge and it lingered for far too long. And to have it checked off the list is just a huge relief. So there's the part of me that wishes that I felt better and I would just go to sleep, like a nice restful sleep. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, because I ended up sleeping on the couch last night because I was coughing and I didn't want to keep the missus up all night listening to me hack up my lungs. Anyway, that's in my rearview mirror, and that allows me a lot of latitude and some positive energy that I hope I can take forward through this. So here's the other great thing about this is having it done. I'm now going to be off of work for 7 days. Like, I'll have to pop in online, check the email or whatever a couple of times, but ultimately I get to be off for 7 days straight. Now, not to be, glass half empty. I'm going to be running around, going to go have to pick up the boy at college, but that's a joy to have him back. And I'm sure there's going to be some last minute wrangling of Christmas gifts, which seems to happen every year, despite, feeling like in much better shape than we have been in prior years. There's always going to be that last minute scramble. And yeah, but at the same time, not having this heaviness, it's going to feel really good. Excuse me. I'm going to try to keep the coughs to a minimum so I don't have to cut and paste this thing all night. So speaking of heaviness, so the topic tonight, and if you've seen, the title here, I wanted to do, and I don't think I did this last year. I don't think I have, and I would like to make it a recurring thing, because oftentimes you get these year-end retrospectives. And because this podcast is essentially I don't want to use the term dismissively of like nostalgic, but I mean, it's certainly what kind of got this whole thing rolling was having a certain amount of nostalgia for things of our youth, our generation, but that also extends into our adulthood as well. And there's not a lot of contemporary topics necessarily for us that doesn't, I think, extend into geopolitical stuff and the stuff that I really try not to get too deeply into, just because we all have our own opinions and views on the world. So what could be a contemporary topic for Gen X? And I realized that we lost a number of luminaries, celebrities, if you will, from Gen X this past year. Now, of course, as we get older, this is going to become more commonplace. I think we're experiencing it in our own lives and, going back even to like the COVID thing and how health has become, I think, really a hyper focus for a lot of people, and sometimes for the positive, sometimes for the negative. Nevertheless, you are having far too many deaths that are health related for all different types of reasons. And, my health has been up and down for a number of things. And I did start to think about those that we lost this year. So that's what this episode is about. Those Gen Xers that we have lost in 2023. Admittedly, some I know less about than others. So again, this might be a shorter one. I've been saying that recently and then going like an hour and change. I think this will be a short one tonight, if for no other reason that I'm, not feeling great. And we're heading into holidays and it's a time for rest and relaxation. So why don't we get into this list? And I'm going to start basically from, the earliest part of the year. This basically goes in order of deaths. And not to be so abrupt and put it that way, but that's really what we're talking about here. So the first person on the list here, I'm not really familiar with at all. And maybe some of you will be much more familiar than I. And that is Ken Block, who was born November 21st, 1967, and passed away earlier this year, January 2nd, in fact, of this year at the age of 55. Now, Ken Block was a rally car driver. Admittedly, I am not well versed in motorsports. I do know some of, the big names, but rally car even less so than the NASCAR, to be honest, because I think NASCAR is the larger brand, the most, more recognizable brand here in the United States. But Ken Block, a driver, but also the co-founder of DC Shoes. I had no idea, and I didn't know that DC had been through a couple of different iterations, and it was originally Drools, Drools. Gen Xers will probably know. But the shoe brand spun off of that, became an independent company. It was ultimately purchased by Quicksilver, which I believe still owns it, did some product renovation on it, some branding, some logo. But DC Shoes, I really didn't know the background about it. But that's really all I know about Ken Block. I know he's a championship rally car driver, did a lot of different stuff, philanthropy and, other types of business. But what really struck my mind is how he had passed away. And that is in a snowmobile accident. Now, completely randomly, out of the blue, Maggie, my wife, been on the show before, says, you know what we should do over the Christmas break? We should go snowmobiling. Now, I know some people who love to go snowmobiling, but I think that you have to start really, really slow because it can be really, really dangerous. And it's not as though I'm adverse to, risky things or exciting things. But when you have two people, me and my wife, we're in our mid to late 40s, I'm touching 50, with not great backs and necks, I don't think it's probably in our best interest to hop on a snowmobile right now without getting ourselves in much better physical state, because it can be very demanding. And here you have someone who is a rally car driver who you would imagine knows his way around a motorized vehicle of any sort, who lost his life in an accident. I'm not real eager to do that, but this is a much better version of her risk taking than the longest time she wanted to skydive, wanted me to go skydiving with her. And I said, absolutely not. I don't think I will ever skydive. No, thanks. So next on the list that we lost, Adam Rich, born October 12th, 1968, passed away January 7th, 2023, at the age of 54. Now, Adam Rich, for, our generation, was primarily really known for two things. And the first one, I think, is the most well-known, and that is for the show 8 is Enough. And he played Nicholas, and he had the bowl cut, little mop-headed kid, and was such a central part of the show. The other thing that he was most well known for, and something that I can't imagine hasn't been made into a movie, like a live action version. Now, when I say the name of it, well, they've made live action movies. Talking about Dungeons and Dragons, but based upon the characters from that 80s cartoon, which is one of my favorites of all time. And, the thing with that is you also had Willie Ames, who played the older brother of Nicholas Bradford on 8 is Enough. So these guys were, doing other work outside of 8 is Enough together, which I think was just, kind of cool. But, he had been on everything, Adam Rich, that is, Love Boat, Chips, Fantasy Island, $6 Million Man, St. Elsewhere, Baywatch. I mean, just a who's who of kind of like Gen X, 80s, mid-80s to early 90s television. And I always thought was really, really good. The sad part is, and it was a lifetime struggle for him, he began, using drugs as a teenager, and it actually gradually, I guess, it worsened. And unfortunately, when he did pass away earlier this year, it was from an accidental fentanyl overdose. 54 years old and entirely too young. And fentanyl is an increasing problem across all walks of life and needs to be addressed somehow, some way. Next on the list, born February 1st, 1968, passed away earlier this year, January 12th, the age of 54. We have the princess of rock and roll, Lisa Marie Presley. I mean, you can't be born into more royalty than Elvis Presley. I mean, that is I would imagine a huge burden. I mean, she was obviously very little when he passed away. I think she was 9 when he passed away. So she got to know her father and lose her father, mourn her father, but also a larger than life character. Of course, the joke is always made that, she was the daughter of the king of rock and roll. And then at least for a time, she was the wife of the king of pop when she married Michael Jackson. Now, a lot of people have speculated and continue to speculate about the nature of that marriage and whether it was legitimate or whether it was simply a kind of publicity stunt. Whether it was or it wasn't, really none of our business. That was between two adults who have lived their entire lives in one way or another in front of the public eye. And if they found some comfort in each other, that's great. Now, one thing that I forgot about is that Lisa Marie also was married to Nicolas Cage for 2 years, in 2002 to 2004. That just blows my mind. I don't know. Just very, very strange. She actually married 4 times in her 54 years. Danny Keough, her first husband, 1988 to 1994. Michael Jackson for 2 years, 94 to 96. Nicolas Cage, 02 to 04. And Michael Lockwood, 2006 to 2021. And has 4 children. And her daughter, Danielle Riley Keough, is an actress. So the granddaughter of the king has been in a number of movies. I know this is a bit of a segue, but I find it interesting. But she got her first real start in the Runaways biopic. The Runaways, obviously, Joan Jett, Lita Ford. But I mean, she's been in a ton of stuff all over the gamut of different types of films, from horror to action. She was in Mad Max Fury Road. She was capable. Oh, no kidding. That's right. I love that movie. But yeah, she's been in a lot of different stuff, and she has some stuff coming up as well. Her most recent film was War Pony, which she actually also directed. So, yeah, but Lisa Marie, entirely too young. And, yeah. And here you have, Priscilla. Priscilla is 78 years old and lost her husband, lost her daughter. Excuse me. I forget that she had another child. Her son is Navarone Garibaldi Garcia, and born to actress Priscilla Presley and Marco Garibaldi in Santa Monica, California. Huh. Yeah. It says, as his mother was the former wife of Elvis Presley, media scrutiny was often focused on the family. You think? Yeah. Just got to leave people alone to live their lives. But, I mean, we live and die by the tabloids, which is a sad state of the world. But Lisa Marie Presley. On my drive home this evening, I decided to put on some music by this next gentleman. So, born September 21st, 1968, passing away February 12th of this year at the age of 54. You have David Jude Jolicoeur, who is most well known as Trugoy the Dove from the rap group De La Soul. Now, De La Soul is, I think, most famously known for Me, Myself, and I. But I also remember them having a close affiliation with A Tribe Called Quest. Were they discovered by Q-Tip? Let's see. Any history here? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, De La Soul's debut album, 3 Feet High and Rising, released 1989, was a critical smash hit in the hip-hop genre. They quickly became prominent members of the Native Tongues Posse, along with A Tribe Called Quest, Black Sheep, Queen Latifah, and the Jungle Brothers. The single Me, Myself, and I became a huge hit, further cementing the group's popularity. However, the 60s pop group The Turtles sued De La Soul for using a sample from the 1969 hit You Showed Me for the interlude track, Transmitting Live from Mars. So they were definitely on that jazz style. And it's even been called, alternative hip hop or progressive rap, where it had a more, I don't want to use like the word academic, but it definitely seemed like a bunch of college kids rapping kind of thing. Even in presentation and lyrics, how they approached music. It seemed very, very different than a lot of their contemporaries. And it definitely shows, but that whole jazz rap thing, I'm trying to think of the other groups, Diggable Planets. Oh, yeah. So I just hit jazz rap. What comes up? A Tribe Called Quest, Diggable Planets, De La Soul, Gangstar, The Roots, Jungle Brothers, and Dream Warriors. Nevertheless, how did he pass away? I do not know. Oh, wow. In the last years of his life, Jolicoeur was diagnosed with congestive heart failure and had to wear a life vest defibrillator machine in order to counteract its symptoms. Oh, boy. That's too bad. De La Soul took part in a special performance for the 50 Years of Hip Hop at the 65th Annual Grammy Awards, performing their 1988 song Buddy. However, Jolicoeur was not on stage with his group mates. Yeah. Oh, man. Congestive heart failure. It's brutal. But again, that's just another reminder that we're not getting any younger. So next we have a legend, a living legend, at least in my mind. Not to say that Lisa Marie Presley was kind of a living legend, but born December 7th, 1966, passing away July 26, 2023, at the age of 56. Ireland's own Sinead O'Connor. So I will say, and I think I said this around the time that Sinead had passed away, I definitely did a couple of posts on social media, is that I wasn't really into her other than, Nothing Compares to You. That was, a Prince song. And as a Prince fan, her rendition was spectacular, like far beyond Prince's version. And I've listened to Prince's version many times, but hers was otherworldly because her voice was otherworldly. But I never really got into her. You know, I never bought the records. Let me tell you. So I started dating my wife and we started exchanging music, as you do when you're dating someone. And I was really trying to keep open-minded because there was a lot of stuff that she listened to that I wasn't a huge fan of. But I listened to I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. And like listen to the whole album multiple times, really trying to understand it and get into it. And I was sold. And then pretty much listened to a lot of her catalog since then. Now, I'm not saying this is in my regular rotation necessarily, but I was a fan after that. So, I mean, we're talking in the 2000s before I really became a fan of Sinead O'Connor. And we danced to a Sinead O'Connor song called Dancing Lessons at our wedding. That record, Faith and Courage, came out in 2000. Yeah. Oh, I got my timeline correct. It's so good. It's so good. I mean, you know, some of her stuff is, I'm not saying that she is like super deep. Sometimes it comes across as being a little bit, I don't want to say forced. It's hard to describe. Sometimes trite, perhaps, but it's all about the vocal delivery and the musical accompaniment. And she was just so unique, but also really struggled with significant mental health issues, of which she was very open. And I do know that she lost her son, and that she really struggled after his death, in part because there was a lot of tension within the family and times where she was separated from her kids, either for their safety or her safety. Just, she kind of went all over the place with that. And she really struggled. But let's see here. It says here, she was found unresponsive at her flat in Herne Hill, South London, confirmed dead at the age of 56, and the cause of death was not stated, but the police reported it was not suspicious. But a lot of luminaries of Irish music and film, celebrities, all either, you know, went to her funeral or paid tribute to her. And truly an artist, I think a example when you talk about the tortured artist. She really was. Now, obviously, she took a stand at a time where you couldn't. So, of course, I'm going to go back to her ripping up a picture of the Pope. And I say, as a practicing Catholic, that at the time I was not a practicing Catholic. And that was one of those, oh, you can't do that. That's the Pope. Because even if you weren't Catholic, that was a huge thing. And really what she was doing was trying to bring light to some of the things that came to light later on, as far as some things that were happening within the church that were certainly being, they're being withheld. They're being tamped down. They were being hidden. And I'm not saying that Pope John Paul knew everything, didn't know everything, how much he knew. I'm not casting any, you know, judgment or giving him any, I don't know. It's not my place to give him any kind of solace or comfort. I don't know why I can't think of the word. It's probably because I'm sick. What is the word? Reconciliation. He'd have to go for confession for that. Like it's not for me to go ahead and give that kind of blessing. Oh, can't think of the word. I'm an idiot tonight. Anyway, but I mean, you know, she was issued a certificate of excommunication. Describing, let's see, what does it say here? In August 2018, via an open letter, she asked Pope Francis to issue a certificate of excommunication to her, as she'd also asked Pope Benedict and Pope John Paul. She wanted to be excommunicated from the Catholic Church. It's very interesting. She says here, generally, I don't mean to disrespect Catholic people because I believe in Jesus Christ, believe in the Holy Spirit, all those, but I also believe in all of them. I don't think it cares if you call it Fred or Daisy, you know? Okay. And then she converted to Islam, then went all after Christian and Jews on Twitter. Then she apologized and said they were not true at the time and they're not true now. I was being triggered. Yeah. She really went through hard times and I think was always struggling. So here you have someone who became like worldwide famous, which fame in itself is a challenge, but then chooses to use that position to speak out on things that she felt were important, to then be hugely famous and have the world come crashing down on you with such like she was canceled. She was canceled for tearing that picture up of Pope John Paul. Without a doubt, that we didn't call it that then, but that's what happened. She was, clemency was the word I was looking for. Yeah, she was canceled, but an amazing artist, beautiful woman, extremely talented, and a terrible loss. Yeah. Oh, and her son, Shane, 17 years old, committed suicide. Oh, man, awful. Okay. So next we have a guy that I think is so interesting because has one of probably the most famous songs ever written, but one of those things that you kind of become a one-hit wonder to such a degree that you're only known for one thing. I'm talking about Steve Harwell, born January 9th, 1967, passed away September 4th, 2023, at the age of 56. Now, of course, Steve Harwell was the lead singer of the band Smash Mouth. And they, of course, are most well known for All Star. Everyone knows All Star. So it reached the top 10 originally and then shot right back up the charts when it was part of Shrek. It is an earworm. I don't know anyone can then legitimately say they don't enjoy it. It's just one of those songs. It just is an evergreen song that is non-offensive and catchy and kind of gives you everything you want. It's an anthem, and it is used as such. Now, they did have a song. Their first hit was a song called Walking on the Sun. I don't remember it, but then I do know they did a version of I'm a Believer, which is a Monkey song. I think they also did that either for maybe for another Shrek, like maybe a sequel or something like that. But apparently, he had lost a son at the age of 6 months old from acute lymphotic leukemia, and inspired the name of his father's disease prevention fund. So he started a charity that was for acute lymphocytic leukemia, of which he had lost a son at the age of 6 months old. But he also was an alcoholic, and I can completely relate to those challenges. He was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy and Wernicke encephalopathy, which can affect functions such as speech and memory. He was hospitalized in 2017 for his cardiomyopathy, leading to the cancellation of a show. He retired in 2021 due to health issues hindering his ability to perform. And ultimately, he had passed away September 4th, 2023, from final stage liver failure in hospice care at the age of 56. Awful. Just awful. Yeah, I mean, many of the vices that all of us live with and struggle with, not all of us, some of you are vice-free. And to those of you who are vice-free, I say God bless you. I wish that I could say that I was one of those people, but one way or another, it catches up with all of us. And, you know, I hope he is in peace. Hope he is at peace. Boy, now this next one. Now, I haven't talked much about sports on the show. Part of it is because I have become woefully unaware of what's going on. I check in from time to time. Like, I'll watch some Celtics with my son. I haven't watched much football recently. Part of you are going to say, you are from New England. You are in Massachusetts. The Patriots are not good. You lost Tom Brady. Okay, I will admit it's difficult because I dealt with the years where it was bad, felt blessed to have the years that were good, and I didn't know we were going to go back there again. It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway. But I remember, again, when my wife and I first started dating, and you could, day of, walk up to Fenway Park and get tickets for a ball game. Anytime. Place would not be full. Wouldn't be full. But then gradually, in that same time period from when we started dating, like 99, they start to get the ball rolling. You got Pedro Martinez. You got Derek Lowe. You got Jason Varitek behind the plate. You start getting all these different players. You have Noma Garciaparra, Trot Nixon at the time. We ended up getting this guy, Manny Ramirez from Cleveland, and then David Ortiz, and they become this juggernaut. But through it all, there was this kind of like stalwart guy that we had. Let's see, when did we first pick him up? 1994. 1994, after being released from the Pittsburgh Pirates, Tim Wakefield. Now, Tim Wakefield was born August 2nd, 1966, passed away October 1st, 2023, at the age of 57. Now, you have to understand that in a city of hero worship, there are some guys that are they're just one of the guys, seemingly. Just a gentleman, an athlete, but also in a league where pitchers are always expected to be flamethrowers. Like I just said, Pedro Martinez, hitting 96, sometimes 97, 98 on a fastball. You got your Randy Johnsons. Like, these are the guys of that era. And you got a guy who's a knuckleballer. I mean, that thing is like going like 58, 60 something miles an hour. He throws a fastball. It's like maybe high 70s. I don't think he was hitting 80 when he would throw a fastball on occasion, just to keep people honest, right? I mean, he was just this knuckleballer and did everything possible as a pitcher, starter, reliever, long reliever, closer. Like, he didn't close much, but I mean, he could. I mean, it was just crazy that he was able to use this weird pitch. I mean, imagine so in 2009, he had a no-hitter going on through the 8th inning and earned a complete game win, right? Because his arm would stay strong because of the way that he threw. And I love throwing like a knuckleball style, throw on a wiffle ball. You can get that action going where it just drops. It just drops. Not even action. It's just like this weird ball that just kind of drops over the plate. And it's so hard to pick up and it's so hard to hit. And you don't have to throw a million miles an hour to do it. But you look at his overall career and just always solid. Oh, yeah, he recorded 15 saves before Derek Lowe emerged as a new closer. This is in, 2000. You know what I mean? He won 43 games, had ERAs of 5.14, 4.25, 4.58 as a starter. In 97, he led Major League Baseball by hitting 16 batters with a pitch. He'd repeat this feat in 2001, plunking a career-high 18 batters. Well, at least they're not getting hit hard. You know what I mean? Let's see. Wakefield was regularly moved from the position of relief pitcher to starter and back again over the next 3 seasons, and he made 15 starts in 2002. But in 2003, he was back in the rotation permanently. In that season's ALCS, Wakefield allowed 4 runs over 14 innings against New York Yankees. Started games 1 and 4 of the series against Mike Mussina and won both starts. He was also called in to pitch extra innings of Game 7 after the Yankees had tied the game. Red Sox have been leading 5-2 in the 8th inning. After retiring the side in order in the 10th, Wakefield gave up a home run to Aaron Boone on his first pitch of the 11th, sending Yankees to the World Series, which Wakefield apologized to fans after the game. However, the story doesn't end there. In 2004, Wakefield helped the Red Sox win the ALCS against the Yankees, a best-of-7 series to advance to the World Series. Red Sox lost the first 2 games and were losing badly in Game 3 when Wakefield asked to be put into the game to save the other pitchers for the next day. He pitched 3 1/3 innings, which prevented him from starting Game 4. Derek Lowe started Game 4 in his place. Red Sox ultimately won. In Game 5, Wakefield again pitched out of the bullpen and was the winning pitcher in a 14-inning game, throwing 3 shutout innings as the Red Sox won 5-4. The Red Sox beat the Yankees and went on to the World Series. He pitched Game 1 of the World Series, did not get a decision, but the Sox won against St. Louis 11-9, highest scoring Game 1 in World Series history. And the Red Sox swept the Cardinals for their first World Series title in 86 years. And in the room right next to where I record, which is where we have our little fitness center here in the house, there's a picture of Fenway Park from the 2004 season. And it says 86 years and worth the wait. Yeah. Man. But I mean, he continued to, to go on. And he played for, let's see, 16 seasons, 17 seasons, who retired on February 17th, 2012. Yeah. Such a freaking legend of Boston sports. On October 1st, 2023, Wakefield died at his home in Massachusetts of a seizure resulting from brain cancer. He was 57. The cancer diagnosis had been revealed days earlier by Curt Schilling, Wakefield's former Red Sox teammate, stirring controversy because the release was not authorized by Wakefield or his family, but controversy is what Curt Schilling does. But yeah, no one knew. As the old Norm Macdonald joke goes, Tim Wakefield died. I didn't even know he was sick. No one did. Kept it close to a vest. His family kept it quiet. And yeah, just a great representative for the Boston Red Sox. Too young, man. Too young. Let's see, he had 2 children. Our sons share a name. Born 2004, 2005. Man, our kids are similar ages too. I couldn't imagine being gone. My kid's this age. Man, I got to get my shit together. And finally, we've already talked about it on the show. Born August 18th, 1969, passing away just a few months ago, October 28th, 2023, at the age of 54, Matthew Perry. Now, I don't really have anything more to add to when I talked about Matthew Perry when he passed away. Of course, most well known for being Chandler on Friends, but he also had, what's that couple of series with Bruce Willis? The Whole 9 Yards. Is The Whole 9 Yards? I actually like those movies. I think Amanda Peet was in that too, right? Let's see. So Fools Rush In, Almost Heroes, 3 to Tango, The Whole 9 Yards, Serving Sarah, The Whole 10 Yards, 17 Again. He did those movies with Farley. He did a couple. He was kind of like the sarcastic replacement for David Spade in some ways. But he really, I think the first time I saw him, he was on some like Fox sitcom way back in the day. Boys Will Be Boys. That was, let's see, in the original format, Matthew Perry is young. Maybe this is not the show I think it is. Could have sworn he was in another show with Joey, Matt LeBlanc. I thought they were in something else, or there was like a spin-off or something of like Married with Children, or it was on Fox or something like that. But that Chaz Russell character, that sounds really familiar because it was later called Second Chance, later called Boys Will Be Boys. What was that on? Is this one on Fox? Yeah, it aired on Fox. And I think it was right after Married with Children, but I don't think it was able to keep the audience for it. But that was the first time I ended up seeing Matthew Perry, was on that show. Because if it was on Fox, I was going to give it a shot. Just because it was it was the rogue network. It wasn't the big three. So they put out a lot of shit in those early days, and you still kind of ate it up just because it was something different. But those couple of movies with the whole 9 yards with Bruce Willis, I mean, such a great, funny little series. I mean, not meant to be deep, not meant to be super smart. It was just clever and sarcastic and just what you expect from Matthew Perry. I mean, obviously, he didn't need to do a single other thing in his life if he chose not to. After Friends, I mean, they were getting, $1 million per episode? Crazy amounts of money for a series, particularly when you have that many series leads. I mean, all of your budget tied up in nothing but payroll for your actors. But unfortunately, it does list here cause of death was revealed to have occurred due to acute effects of ketamine. But they say other circumstances that contributed to his death included the effects of buprenorphine, drowning, and coronary artery disease. So you're talking about a terrible kind of mixture of things. But apparently, Perry had been receiving ketamine-assisted psychotherapy sessions to treat anxiety at the time of his death, and his last known session of which had been the week prior to his death. However, the report stated that the ketamine in his system at death could not be from that infusion therapy, since ketamine's half-life is 3 to 4 hours or less. Just, again, drug addicts, alcoholics, of which I, count myself in that. It's very, very difficult. And you'd like to think it gets easier as you get older and mature. And in some ways, it can. In other ways, it becomes even more challenging because you just have a lifetime of dependence. And it says here in his memoirs, Perry wrote that by the age of 14, he had become an alcoholic and then addicted to Vicodin after a jet ski accident in 1997. Man, he took as many as 55 Vicodin pills per day at one point. That is an absurd amount. So at the age of 30, he was admitted to Cedars-Sinai with alcohol-induced pancreatitis. Oh, man. So many people came out of the woodwork, and I don't mean that negatively. Sometimes you don't see people, regularly, or you just don't talk to people, or you did a movie together 20 years ago or whatever. But the number of people who came out and said that he was this sweet man, this nice man, funny man, but everyone knew of his addictions and that they hoped that he would be now finally at peace. And I mean, I think that ends up being the common refrain when you have those who have lost their lives to addiction. You hope that they can find peace in life, peace in death that they could not find in life. And that line comes directly from Dusk Till Dawn and George Clooney to Quentin Tarantino. That's what he says to his brother. What was his brother's name? So Quentin Tarantino character. Anyway, I digress. But those are the Gen Xers that we have lost this year in 2023. And sadly, this is going to continue each year, and then it will become a lot, and it starts in dribs and drabs each generation, and then it becomes more predominant. You even look at it from the perspective of, the folks that were on TV when we were little usually weren't going to be our contemporaries. Obviously, some child actors here and there, but you saw these famous people And, they get older and older. I mean, Betty White being a prime example. She'd been on TV our entire lives. And in fact, the entire lives of some of our parents, a lot of our parents, I would probably say. And for whatever reason, celebrity is interesting. I mean, obviously this show, I'm talking about music, movies, culture, and, these are interesting things. And it always has been. I mean, obviously, that there are newspapers that were hundreds of years ago that would have musicians and painters and all different forms of artistry, and they had a following and they were famous. Fame has been with us for as long as I think that humanity has had civilizations. I think in some way or another, fame is, I don't know how or why it's a thing, but it is. And if you're exceptional at something one way or another, it seems to find its way to a larger audience. And all of those folks have touched people's lives. And I think that's a really amazing thing. It doesn't matter what the medium is. You can say, oh, well, sitcom actor. That's not really important. Kept you amused, made you laugh. Sometimes after a long, shitty day and someone just makes you laugh. That's great. Now, others would say, well, that's the whole problem with the world today. We're all just locked into media and we're always looking for escapes. We've always been looking for escapes. Always. Always. And whether healthy or unhealthy, just talked about addictions. You don't think guys a couple hundred years ago or at the start of the Industrial Revolution who were working in a factory from sun up to sundown, they weren't going to the local pub to throw back a few and listen to some guy playing the fiddle in the corner. Of course he was. Of course this happened. It's a different kind of escape. Gambling. So, okay, guys getting around playing some cards. Been watching all those Westerns. What they did. Okay, we're going to go play some cards. It's all some form of escapism. And these folks have done something in their field that brought them worldwide fame, and can't help it. We tend to mourn them when they're gone. Now, mind you, it's not in the same way as mourning, a close loved one, but you just go, gosh, that's so sad. Oh, that is so sad. Actually sent something to my wife recently, trying to remember who it was. Someone had passed away, and I sent that to her, and I'm like, wow, this is just such, you know what it is? I think he is just outside. I think he is a boomer. Yeah, 1962. So not quite one of ours. So I'm just going to take a moment at the end of this. Andre Braugher. Oh my gosh. What a tremendous actor in any type of film or stage or TV. Could do drama exceptionally well. First time I saw him was Homicide: Life on the Streets. Maggie and I, that was like one of our first like bonding shows. He was Detective Frank Pembleton. That show was ridiculously good. And to think of him playing a cop again, but this time Captain Raymond Holt on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, these couldn't be more dissimilar characters, more dissimilar portrayals of cops. And equally good, iconic, if you will. Raymond Holt's icon, without a doubt. His interaction with Andy Samberg, the whole crew, honestly, that whole cast. If you love just comedy, and I don't know who doesn't love just comedy, just something to laugh. I mean, his chemistry and the ability to play the straight man, but then be over the top when the role called for him. Amazing. And I never watched the show that he did, because he had a TV show with Ray Romano that I heard was very good, but a little bit niche-y maybe. With my voice, sounding like this, I would love to be able to sound like Andre Braugher, because, man, he had that voice too. I'm not even going to try to do it when like he'd be like, Peralta. Hey, I got through almost everything until I tried to do the Andre Braugher voice, and that made me cough. But what a fantastic actor and such a true loss. Passing away December 11th at the age of 61. So to Andre Braugher and to everyone on the list, may they rest in peace, and may their family and friends find comfort in whatever, I was going to say comfort and joy as we head into the new year. I don't know what else to say sometimes, something like that, but I hope they're all at peace. So yeah. Anyway, not meaning it to be a downer of an episode, just wanted to give kind of a retrospective and just kind of a remembrance of those that we lost. Gen Xers of some fame and fortune, of some noteworthiness, as they've left us. And, let me know. What do you think of the episode? Have any topics that you'd like to discuss for future episodes? And if you want to come on the show, let me know. Or if you have some suggestions of people that I should get on my show, I would love to hear from you. So how do you do that? You can email me at stuckinthemiddlepod@yahoo.com. You can find me on Instagram, X, and YouTube at StuckPodX. Head on over to the Facebook page, Stuck in the Middle, a Gen X podcast. Please like, comment, share, leave 5-star reviews, and most importantly, please subscribe to the podcast. So, until next time, later, slackers.